Hello, Fit-Tastic viewers. We are here with Jay Roberson. He's going to be our guest for our 10th installment of the Fit-Tastic Partner Spotlights. Jay is a sports medicine physician at Children's Mercy Sports Medicine Center. We have a really exciting conversation for you today based around the return to sport for kids and families in the area. And he has some great information to provide. So thank you for joining us, Jay. You can give yourself a quick introduction. Otherwise, we can hop into questions.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. Really happy to help with this. As Bryce said, I'm a physician at Children's Mercy Hospital, or in the sports medicine department. I take care of all sorts of sports injuries, concussions, and now we take care of COVID too, because that's the world we're in at the moment.
That's right. So speaking of that, as you know, kids are starting to return to sport, practices are starting up again, some competitions. There's a lot of safety procedures and protocols to follow. And you've shared some resources with our Fit-Tastic team and weighing in team in the past. So we decided to ask a little bit more about what coaches can do and what facilities can do to try to mitigate the risk as kids get back to sport.
Yeah. So the number one thing coaches can do is just be aware and be educated on what their local rules are, what their organizational rules are, what their health department's saying about COVID, and then be prepared for something not to go right. That's definitely how this season's going to go. This fall, maybe winter, maybe even spring. Things are going to get messed up. You're going to start a season in good faith. Couple kids on your team or another team are going to end up getting COVID. Something's going to get canceled. There's going to be forfeits. It's inevitable that that's going to happen. So everybody's got to be pretty flexible. But everybody's got to try to do the basic stuff. Everybody's been talking about with public health degrees for the last 6 months. Social distancing, wearing masks, good hand hygiene. Don't create any unnecessary touching or congregation of athletes, coaches, or fans.
Gotcha. Good advice. So players and coaches should be wearing masks right now. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, if you're in any sort of indoor sport, or inside of a facility or locker room, everybody should be wearing masks up until the time of competition. And anyone who's actually in competition should be completely allowed to wear masks if they feel comfortable doing so. Gotcha. But not every sport is conducive to that. But coaches should definitely on the sidelines continue to wear masks. Outdoor situations are a little more fluid. I think it's a little safer, for lack of a better term, for outdoor athletes to go without a mask. But when you're in a sport where you're in close contact, such as football being the big contact sport of the fall, there's definitely rules that are allowing people to wear masks, have kind of a more extended face mask covering, the plastic plexiglass face mask covering, those sort of things to help with that. Having said that, there are definitely some masks that you don't want to wear if you're in a contact sport. So for football specifically, the National Federation of High Schools came out with a policy statement that gaiters, so the full covering that surrounds your whole neck, and then you just kind of pull up and on over your nose and then pull back down around your neck, should not be worn during football due to the fact that it can be pulled on and tackled and cause neck injury. So in football, we'd only want people wearing something that comes up maybe over their head through their helmet or around their ears if they choose to play with a face covering. Other sports like baseball, a gaiter would probably be absolutely fine to use. You already see a lot of the MLB guys doing that, where they're just pulling it up when they get to first base or something. When they're out in the outfield, they're not bothering with it. In the dugout, they're wearing it, that sort of thing. So I think that goes for our young athletes too. When you're close to other players and you're not huffing and puffing and really needing to breathe, then you should definitely be wearing a mask. If you can tolerate a mask, while you are playing, that is also a very reasonable thing to do, and no one should be discouraged from doing that.
Great. So more secure, the better, probably for sports where people are going to be in close contact or brushing up against each other, but especially football when, you're getting tackled.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I've seen anything on the effectiveness of like the buffs and gaiters versus masks in general. And I get the convenience of the gaiters.
Yeah.
But there's also some masks on the market where you can just slide them down and then put them back on, which might be helpful for coaches and athletes as they come into the huddle at times before they go back out on the field. So,
yeah, for sure. I mean, anything that improves the likelihood they're going to use the mask is helpful. But again, anything that's truly surrounding the neck while playing football, specifically, wrestling, those sort of things where someone could yank and pull on you, is not encouraged in any way.
Gotcha. All right. That's good info. Now, recommendations for fans and spectators. I know we've been away from sport for a while now, and I know people are chomping at the bit to get some entertainment from sports, and I'm sure that parents want to get back to watching their kids in actions. Do you have any recommendations for fans of the sport?
Yeah, buy a bigger television. No, I mean, ideally we could watch all of it on TV. Even including, our kids' games and stuff, and no one would have to be directly present. The fewer the fans that are there, the more the fans can really follow the social distancing rules, the better. I'm personally thinking about my daughter, 8-year-old soccer, and thinking about the parents. Normally, on a normal soccer Saturday, we're all kind of bunched together chatting and talking and watching the game. But, this year everybody's going to have to be in their pods and back off from the field, stay away as much as possible. Maybe only one parent comes to a game would probably be ideal. When you get up more to the high school level where you got fans that aren't necessarily parents showing up, I think the high schools are really going to have to make a specific decision on whether or not they're going to allow fans. And I think at some point the state high school athletic associations are going to make a definitive answer on some of that. But again, same rules apply if you're going to do it. And if it's allowed, then as much as you can, social distance, especially people outside of your bubble. So, your family members could obviously sit next to you, but, people who you see once every 2 weeks, you probably shouldn't be sitting right next to you. You should probably be making that 6 to 10 to 15 foot space between yourselves. And then masks. Masks are going to help. Any chance you stop any droplet from leaving your mouth is one less potential coronavirus particle to get into somebody else's body. So masks are really important.
Nice. And as you said, there's certain masks that work better for certain sports. Is there any specific recommendations for certain sports for fans, and if they should attend, how many people should attend, or if you even should be in attendance in general?
Yeah, I mean, kind of what we were talking about earlier. The more outdoor your sport is, the safer you can potentially be as a fan. Anything indoors becomes more precarious just because there's less air circulation and more, and it's just harder to social distance if you're inside than outside. So those are really the main things. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be weird. It's going to be not as fun as normal, no matter what we do. But I think, and you might even do some kind of approaches like in waves. So some parents get to go this week, some parents get to go next week, things like that to maybe just mitigate the total numbers of people that are around. So, everybody's going to have to get a little creative to try to eliminate those risks.
That's right. Yeah. And I guess the most important thing is allowing these kids to get back into sport and be active. Yep. So if we don't have the viewing pleasure all the time, then so be it. Got to do what we can, but also be as safe as possible. So, really.
And to your point, I think everybody's got to kind of come up with what their goal is. Is their goal to get their kids back to doing the things they love and getting the mental and physical health benefits of sports, or is it to entertain themselves and live, some people would say vicariously through their children. So I'd like to think that all parents have their kids' best interest at heart. And if you got to, watch a video of your kid's game 3 hours later that the coach sends you in order to let your kid play a sport, I think that is the sacrifice parents going to have to make.
Mm-hmm. Or if the parents can't be there for the kids' games, the kids can exaggerate a little bit and say they had 2 home runs instead of just a single base hit. So.
Yeah, I like it.
Another question, any recommendations or best practices for certain sports? Are kind of similar to what I just asked, but based on age. So are there any differences and recommendations as far as child participation in different age groups?
Yeah, there's been a few conflicting studies out there. Some show that kids when they do get infected, have as much virus in their nose and mouth as an adult, maybe even more. But other studies show that kids under the age of 10 might not transmit it nearly as much as adults, maybe up to half as much as adults or teenagers. Having said that, we all know, anyone who's had kids understands that getting younger kids to do social distancing is really hard. Yeah. So you can, in theory at least, trust the older kids to adhere to some of those rules a little bit better. So that might just be a wash, if they transmit it less, but they're going to be in each other's faces a little bit more no matter what we tell them. It might all even out in the end. And I think everybody's got to know their kid and know if their kid can follow the rules. And that's, again, going back to my daughter's soccer team. I told a lot of the parents, if we all think the girls can handle these rules and follow them and listen to us, then I think we can have a successful soccer season. If they aren't able to do this stuff, we're going to have to just call it. We're going to have to cut it short. So it's a little bit trial and error. I think everybody's going to have to do what they are most comfortable with within the recommendations and rules outlined by the state, the local, and the organizational authorities.
There you go. Great. So where can people find these recommendations and resource pages that have been developed by Children's Mercy, the CDC, and some other organizations nationally?
Yeah, so the American Academy of Pediatrics, National Athletic Trainers Association, and American Medical Society for Sports Medicine came up with some pretty good simple graphics for what coaches and parents and athletes can do. And they're general guidelines. These do not supersede the local guidelines, but you can also look up for your local guidelines, and especially for your state high school athletic association. They are all coming out with very specific rules for their sports. But this is more, I think, for the for kind of the club sport and the youth sport below the high school level. And there's just I think these are 3 really good resources. So it's just talking about masks and how to protect yourself as an athlete, as a fan, as a coach, and kind of what you should wear. And then this is a nice, simple safety checklist that all coaches should probably try to be aware of, and hopefully all youth organizations are aware of something. It's something like this. It doesn't have to be exactly this, but I think this is a pretty good list. And then this is just kind of helping to give parents some ideas of what is lower and what is higher risk. And we know that sports where there's more contact are going to be more risk. So that's really the best stuff we got right now. Again, unfortunately, there's no magic pill or magic face mask that's going to completely eliminate this stuff. But I think if everybody works hard and does all those steps together and everybody is consistent, we reduce the chance of spread as much as possible. And then our kids who are hopefully going to be healthy, even if they get COVID-19. Don't bring it back to the house and then spread it to parents, spread it to grandparents, the people who are at least at higher risk for serious complications of COVID. Not that kids can't have high complication COVID, but it is thankfully an illness that does not seem to be hurting kids nearly as much as everybody else.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Jay, thank you very much. Before we end this, you can find these recommendations below this video. We have shared all those resources that Jay shared. We have some additional resources that we're going to be sharing from Children's Mercy Sports Medicine Department. You can visit the Children's Mercy site online, go to Departments, Sports Medicine, and then scroll down to the bottom. There's a couple links in blue where you can find the specific recommendations and some other information. So, Jay, we really appreciate the time you spent with us. And everybody that's viewing this, you can check our next video out next week. We'll have a new guest. So thanks for joining us.